We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore positive. It's a positively home stand kind of week. Birds went away last week. Okay against the Yankees, not so good against the Astros over the weekend. The Cleveland Guardians, never use the I or the T word here. And anytime I think Cleveland, I have a lot of friends out in Cleveland. We do a lot of Browns chatter over the course of time, but not as much Guardians and Orioles, because quite frankly, the Orioles have stunk for the last 25 years. And the Guardians have been pretty decent, even when they were the team formerly known as. This guy covers all things Cleveland sports. So we feeded him in the aftermath of the LeBron parade. We have given him quite an amount of manure over all these years over the Cleveland Browns. And lo and behold, the upstart Guardians, the first place Cleveland Guardians, in our way this week here. We welcome Daryl Ruiter, Right or Wrong fan. He does all these sports things out in the land of Cleveland, the Odyssey Birds. And what's going on? You guys got Northern Lights. You got a full eclipse. You and I are like Facebook friends. I see all this happening. Who knows? Maybe a World Series parade this year, even for the old people that have never. I had Munch on this week. Nobody has seen a Cleveland parade. You had to be 80 years old to see a Cleveland baseball parade.
Yeah, the WS words are creeping into the vocabulary with the Guardians now. By mere percentage points, the best record in the American League. They're the best team in baseball playing at home. They have reestablished a home field advantage, another outstanding homestand that saw them go 5-1. They're hitting home runs left and right. I mean, it's shades of the 90s all over again. With this particular team. They're young, they're hungry, they're enthusiastic. They've got a dynamite bullpen. At least in my view, they've got at least 5 all-stars on this team. Obviously, I don't expect all 5 to make it. I think they're going to get robbed of a few, but you have to share the wealth there. But it's a fun baseball team to watch, Nestor, for sure. No question about it.
We've got a fun team here, and it's the first time in a long time. It feels like to the fan base here, it's like, oh, we're so good. We haven't won a playoff game yet, okay? And everybody here's 22-23, whether it's Rutschman, whether it's Henderson, whether it's Westberg. They imported Burns, and that's more of a rental at this point. And we have new ownership here, at least the perception thereof, with David Rubenstein. That remains to be seen how they're going to spend and whether they're going to run the team like the Indians or the Rays or whether they're going to step up, spend some money. I mean, it remains to be seen, but your team's interesting to me because of the way it has been constructed and the way they have not necessarily spent, but they've won. And I went back and I did a little research last 10 years. First off, 3 World Series since the last time Baltimore has been in a World Series. But in recent times, the last decade, Tito really brought some respect to the program there, if not a parade. A lot of 90-win, teams over the last decade. Way, way better version of baseball than maybe we realized here when we're losing 115 games.
Yeah, and unlike Baltimore, the Guardians have never burned their organization to the ground. Going all the way back to the late 80s is when they last did that. The 90s teams, obviously, once the new ballpark opened on the south side of downtown Progressive, now known as Progressive Field, those dominant teams that won the Central Division every year, they had a little bit of a lull in the early 2000s, but have really regained their steam in the last decade and a half. Terry Francona, one of the winningest managers in franchise history. Stephen Vogt, first-year manager. I wasn't sure what to expect from him. I thought it would maybe take a year or two. I honestly picked them to go 82-80. I thought they would be better than they were last year, take a step forward. I didn't think that they were ready to contend just yet, and here we are. About to enter the month of July. The Guardians are running away with the American League Central. They have as I like to call it, a week-long lead on the second place club, and a big reason why, again, they're hitting more home runs. They've nearly 40 home runs this time of year than they had last year. Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez obviously are leading the charge. Stephen Kwan, above 385 between 385 and 395. He hit 400, I think, for 30 seconds. He got to 400 and then he dropped down to like 396 or something like that over the weekend. But, Quana topped the lineup, has been a lot of fun to watch. And then, of course, the bullpen anchored by closer Emmanuel Clase, who has 24 saves. If there is a weakness on this team, Nestor, it is the starting rotation. The youngster Tristan McKenzie, he continues to struggle with giving up the long ball. We got to see that on Sunday afternoon. He only threw 3 innings. Granted, his start was shortened by the rain, but I contend he would have not made it to the 5th inning anyway because he was above 70 pitches. He gave up another 2 home runs. He's given up 17 homers in 16 starts. 4 of his starts this year, he's given up multiple home runs in it. So keeping the ball in the ballpark, a little bit of a problem for him. Good news, the Orioles, at least good news for Cleveland. He will not be pitching in Baltimore this week.
We even moved the fences back for him a couple years ago. Jim Palmer calls it the Great Wall of Baltimore, the left field wall.
Yeah, so you won't see him. You'll get to see Tanner Bybee, though. You'll get to see Logan Allen. You'll get to see Carlos Carrasco, in this series. But, it is that's where they're the weakest is their starting pitching. And that's not saying a lot, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because, again, the offense, they're never out of games. That's one thing with this team. They're very adept at coming from behind. So that is something the Orioles are going to have to be really concerned about. And then also, too, if the Orioles are down in the later innings, they're going to have a tough time scoring runs against this Cleveland bullpen.
Daryl Ruiter is our guest from the land of Cleve. You can follow him out on the X and the socials at Ruiter Wrong Fan. That's Ruiter and WRONG fan out on the interwebs. I'm not shocked that the Orioles are good this year, right? Like this time last year, we're kind of getting in the boat, figuring it all out. And how good's this Rutschman guy and how good's Henderson and how good can the pitching be? And, if you found this team last August, you'd find starting pitching coming, waiting on Means. Bradish is a Cy Young candidate. Batista's the best closer in the sport. Tommy John, UCL. Yeah. We go through this, and they've lost 3 pitchers in the last 3 weeks, 2 starters. Wells would have worked out of the bullpen if not been a starter for the year. They have this incredible farm system full of young talent. Even Jackson Holliday's been on the IL down in Norfolk and got a cup of coffee at the beginning. It was a little cold cup of coffee. It wasn't warm coffee. They sent him back. The pitching and the starting pitching here was thought to be a strength. 5-6 weeks ago when they had Means right, they had Bradish throwing no-hitters through 5 innings. There was about a 6-man rotation. Kramer gets hurt, Bradish is gone, Wells is gone, Means is gone. And the questions about Suarez and the questions about Irvin and whether Kramer's coming back. Starting pitching's a problem here. You guys have that problem, but you have this deep bullpen. The pitching here in general has sort of hit the rocks a little bit, and we expect that. Tell me about the strength of that bullpen, and tell me about look, Bieber was a guy that was being rumored to be here by the end of the summer because we might have needed him more than you. You're pretty shocked at how good this team is out there this year, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know that Bieber would have ended up in Baltimore because had he not gotten hurt, and I think the Guardians would have held on to him.
Oh, they would have been great. They didn't expect to be competitive this year, right?
Right. And so, going into this game, it was like, or I should say season rather, it was, what are they going to do with Bieber? If they're in it, they hang on to him. But if they're not, they got to trade him and flip him for some guys that can help them win in 2025. But look, Tim Herron's been fantastic coming out of the bullpen. He is 3-0 this season. He actually was credited with the win on Sunday. His ERA is sub 1.2. Sam Hentges has been really, really good. Smith also another sub 2 ERA. Emmanuel Clase, his ERA is under 1.
He's like a cult figure there, like Batista was here last year, right?
Yeah.
Like he's getting there.
Yeah, he's got 24 saves, and this bullpen has had like 22 plus inning scoreless streaks. I think right now, if I remember, They've got another double-digit scoreless streak, knock on wood, going. I mean, they actually no, I have to take that back. It was snapped on Sunday because they had a reliever they got from for cash from Miami in May make his debut. He ended up giving up a couple of runs in that season series finale with the Blue Jays, but the bottom line is getting runs off of Cleveland's bullpen. It's not easy to do. Very rarely do you see them have hiccups when Stephen Vogt comes out of the dugout to bring in another arm. You just go ahead and put the goose egg in pencil on your scorecard, because it's very, very rare that they give it up. But Tanner Bybee's the ace of the staff right now for all intents and purposes. Carlos Carrasco is, he's, I think, toward the end of his career, and he was slated to be a long reliever this year. And then obviously once,
he might be the game 2 starter in October, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of where that, Xavier Curry, young kid, they've had to bring him up. Tristan McKenzie, I talked about him earlier. He's pitching with a partial tear in his pitching arm. He doesn't want to get the Tommy John surgery, and maybe that's affected some of the long ball stuff. But I've talked to him about it, and he makes no excuse and says, no, it's just I've got to command my pitches better, and his velocity certainly hasn't changed. But yeah, I mean, pitching wise, again, the rotation is come trade deadline. I would say the starting rotation is priority number one to get a. I don't think they need to go out and get an ace, Nestor, but they need to go get a number 2.
Well, look at what Evaldi did last year for the Rangers and against us. And I said, would we have wanted him last year? I mean, around here, we're talking about Kyle Gibson last year. He might not be available in St. Louis. And to your point, we sit around here and think we're the only ones that are going to need starting pitching now and another starter. And the bidding is going to be out there for a lot of teams. And whoever is made available, this is where you start to get your minor league system fleeced for a chance to win in October if you start losing starters.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's the number one priority for the Guardians at the deadline. They got to get another starter in here to help piece this rotation back together, because the line the funnel of pitching, that well is starting to run dry at AAA and in the minor league system. And that's understandable, because the last 2 years, injuries have forced them to basically go through their top pitching prospects and get them up here to the big league level. Some guys, I think, a little faster than the organization would have wanted to do it, but hey, circumstances are what they are. And then the other thing I think that they need is a shortstop. I mean, this organization collects middle infielders like I collect bobbleheads, and they still haven't found their next shortstop, post Francisco Lindor, who continues to struggle with the New York Mets. You really hate to see a guy, ask out of a small market, get big money in a big market, and then just fall flat on his face.
Yeah, really, what happened to him? I thought he'd be a legend there, in the same way that right now you would look at this and say, the Orioles are going to have Rutschman and or Henderson they're going to sign some of these young players. And the notion that Machado's not here anymore and they didn't spend the money on him and Angelos, but we're in that right now, that we're winning for the first time, and you guys did that with Lindor. There was a lot of pressure to give him money there, and they didn't, right?
No, they didn't, and they ended up trading him, and Andres Jimenez ended up being the jewel of that trade. And quite frankly, the Guardians won the trade. Like, he's really the only guy that panned out that they got from the Mets back, and is contributing regularly at the big league level. And the Guardians win the trade.
By the way, Dean Kramer's the only part of Manny Machado that's left, right? Like literally here, right? Yeah.
And, Frankie Lindor didn't want to do what Jose Ramirez did. Jose Ramirez gave the Guardians a hometown discount. He said, I love it in Cleveland. What's an extra $50 million going to get me in life? So I will stay here. I'll sign the extension. I'll, save you $50 million. And he is beloved.
I'll save you $50 million. We expect Rutschman or Henderson to do that. Is that what we're asking him to do?
I don't know what the economics are with your ball club in Baltimore right now. I know in
But
years
we look at
past.
Cleveland and say this is probably what we're going to be when we settle out, which is whatever it is. But especially when they can't figure out the television network here, and the Washington thing's going to get separated, and they're not going to get any of that money anymore. At
Yeah,
some point, that's going to happen here.
yeah, and I know you guys got a ballpark renovation in the works here. I will say the current renovation that is ongoing at Progressive Field right now. The Guardians are doing really well at the gate. They've got a near 22% attendance increase. They had over 100,000 fans over the weekend against the Blue Jays. They had almost nearly 180,000 fans, which was the most fans they drew on a 6-game homestand going back to 2017.
Would we say Cleveland responds to a winner?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also the renovations because they're doing really well with the new group areas that they built in left field and down the left field line rather and out in the right field upper deck
And that
area.
would be a case study for what could happen here, right? When it
Yeah,
works.
yeah. I mean, if I'm guessing the Orioles plan to make some significant alterations to that seating bowl.
600 million alterations.
Yeah. And you know what? I hate to, I'm still adjusting to what the Guardians have done because I'm a traditionalist. I like seeing the seats. You know what I'm saying? I hate seeing the skeleton of where seats used to be only to be used for different stuff.
I told
But
Munch some of those seats way out there that they got rid of up in the upper right field. That's where I sat with Eric Singer from Kiss in the 95 World Series, freezing my ass off with
yeah,
blankets over top of us. They're not seats anymore. They're just gone, right?
no. So it was I called it the Port of Cleveland. It looked like shipping containers for about a decade. Well, they tore those out completely. So you have the skeletal remains of what was the upper deck structure. They couldn't take that out because the lights would have fallen over. So they had to leave the canopy and the
Well, you know what
structure.
they did in Oakland? Just put bra over it. Just put a big tarp over it with a
Nope.
logo, right?
What they did was they tore that out and then they put in so the seats in front on that is group seating, and then behind it is they put these big canopy things over and bars and food and beverage and all that kind of stuff, and it's doing phenomenal for the Guardians. I mean because it's what fans want. You and I think we grew up
We
and
wanted a seat. Yeah, we wanted a seat. Yeah.
we want to sit, we want to watch 9 innings of baseball. And the younger fan now, they want to be able to bounce around the ballpark. They want to stand at the drink rails with their friends and things like that. And so, every time the Guardians have incorporated those type of amenities within the ballpark, they've had tremendous response from fans. It also, look, let's be fair about it. The Guardians are winning this year too. So that also gives fans the impetus to buy tickets and come back to the ballpark. But I have to tell you, I got to get back to the Jose Ramirez thing for a second, Nestor, because when Jose gets a big hit or he hits a home run, they sing Jose, Jose, Jose. It is the most awesome thing, and I can't tell. Like you want to feel the hair on the back of your neck stand up. He hits a home run in a packed ballpark, sold out, and the entire place is singing that. Oh my God, Nestor, it is amazing. It is such a wonderful experience. There's nothing better than a packed ballpark, but even when they're singing songs and chanting and clapping, and because I really felt, John Adams, who used to bang the drum, he passed away. And they renamed the bleachers in his honor at Progressive Field. The left field bleachers now called the John Adams bleachers, and that the atmosphere in that ballpark really changed because there's no one banging the drum anymore. Fans would clap along at key moments of the game and things like that. And that atmosphere is starting to come back into that ballpark organically since John has, passed away. So it's a lot of fun watching this team, especially at home, and just the atmosphere in there. And I'm sure you guys feel it down there in Baltimore with the fans coming back to Camden Yards and the team playing well. So I'm not saying that this week is going to be like the 1997 American League Championship Series all over again, but I'm really hoping it goes that way because it was great for the city of Cleveland.
I'm not going to bag on the late Tony Fernandez. I do have a picture next to him, and I'm not even going to bag on Armando Benitez because It's been 27 years. I'm almost over it. Daryl Ruiter is here. He is Right or Wrong fan. He is out in the land of Cleve. We're gonna be at Pappas on Tuesday in Parkville from 2 until 5. I will have scratch offs in the Maryland Lottery, our Gold Rush 7 doublers. Also, our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions keeping our water crystal clear, not the water that we dove in the harbor this weekend, as well as our friends at Jiffy Lube Multicare putting us out on the road. All right, timeout on baseball. Daryl, you and I usually do 94% football over the course of our relationship. I think it's the longest baseball conversation we've had in a while. And there's plenty to discuss on my side on your show about pitching and about trade deadline and new ownership. New ownership is a big thing here. Football. Browns, Ravens, summertime. Ravens are expected to win 16 games this year. Everybody here, all that. Lamar MVP, all that. Where's the shame, Deshaun Watson at this point? What's the story with the Browns? Because the last 5 years, I've really believed you were getting better. Things are getting better. Everything's getting better. So much better that Joe Flacco almost won a playoff game for you guys last year. But boy, what a weird couple years it's been for the Browns, and I don't know what to believe from the Browns. My sense is Flacco out, Deshaun Watson in. I don't believe in Watson. They do. I don't know. The Browns going to win 10, 11 games this year, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. You got the reigning defensive player of the year here. This roster is just as good as it was a year ago, and they made the playoffs last year, won 11 games, despite not having Deshaun Watson available to play. So I can tell you Deshaun looked okay to me during the spring. I'm not going to rah-rah spring football practice here and,
because you're a professional like me and Luke. You don't rah-rah off-season football. Stop.
Yeah, I mean,
that's for those people on the internet. That's not for people who really know what's going on.
This is the time of year where you were supposed to look good, right? The good news is for the Browns that Deshaun did not exhibit any problems with the surgically repaired shoulder. He looks to be fully healed. Now it's just about continuing to re-strengthen that particular shoulder. I've seen videos now that they're in their, mini camp has come and gone. They're in the off-season summer vacation mode. Watson is throwing on his own out at UCLA. I've seen some video there. He plans to get teammates together for his own sort of training camp, if you would, pre-training camp. Gathering to work on things. They've got new offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey reworking the playbook to really similar to what you guys in Baltimore have done with Lamar Jackson, really incorporate more of the off-schedule stuff within the offense. Part of the problem for the Browns and Kevin Stefanski's offense, and I should say, that Stefanski very regimented with the offense, a lot of timing routes and things like that. Well, now they're building in choice routes for these receivers, so that the receiver reads the leverage, quarterback reads the leverage. Hopefully they end up on the same page and they're not throwing pick sixes because of a miscommunication. But there's a concerted effort this offseason to empower Deshaun Watson on the field instead of worrying about timing throws, to just have him go to work and do what he does best. And that is roam around behind the line of scrimmage, make the defense run around, scramble, cover receivers extra long, and then you hit them with the
you want to play on time. You got the wrong quarterback. That's right. Part of his game. It's like Lamar. Part of the game is what happens. That's playground when the play breaks down.
Right.
And the defense isn't X's and O'd up, and the defense gets compromised.
Absolutely. So I'm very curious to see what Deshaun looks like in this new offense. But if he is healthy, and I realize that is a big, big if, okay, because he's only played 12 games in 2 years for the Browns. But if he's healthy, then yes, the Browns will be a contender. I still don't know if they're going to be good enough to win this division. And quite frankly, I think we're to a point in the NFL where all winning the division gets you is a home playoff game. Like, there's really no big advantage to winning you can win a Super Bowl as a wild card team. Like in the NFL now, just get yourself in the tournament and see if you can make some things happen, and you're playing your best football in late December and early January going into the playoffs. And obviously that's going to be the Browns' focus. But I don't know if they're good enough to win the division yet, Nestor. I don't know if they'll ever win a division. They haven't done that since 1989. They've never won the AFC North since it was constituted when the Texans came in the league in 2002. But it is as good a roster as it was a year ago. And in spite of the quarterback situation a year ago, they still won 11 games and made the playoffs for the second time in 4 years. And also, too, it's the most stable they have been since Baltimore stole Cleveland's football team. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, the head coach, the GM, both getting contract extensions from the Haslams this offseason. Those two plan on being here for a long, long time.
Well, you gave us Sashi Brown.
You're welcome,
So
by the way. Just
yeah,
keep,
thank you.
just keep him out of the listen. Just keep him out of the GM's office, and you're fine.
Well, the problem is he's running the team, which makes it even worse. So, and he's hiding
I,
from me and other people who might have questions. So we're in the third year of hiding with him at this point. Daryl Ruiter is here. He is in Cleveland. You miss Flacco? I mean, like, were you one of the? I mean, clearly the Flacco thing was a sensation in your town. It really
I,
was.
here's my thing on Joe. I'll be honest with you. I think there is a chance that the Browns got the last great football out of him. I think he still has good football in him. Don't misunderstand me. And I know certainly respect and understand how much he's beloved there down in Baltimore and how displeased y'all were to see him do what he did for
No,
the
I
Browns.
don't think that at all. I think everybody here was kind of rooting for him. Everybody I know was rooting for him in some weird way, rooting for the Browns. It was
Yeah.
strange. Nobody put that game on and said we want Joe to throw 4 picks and lose by 4 touchdowns.
You,
I think people were scared to death he was going to come in here with Cleveland the following week.
that
Honestly,
that was the best 5 weeks of Browns offensive football I had seen since I'll go back to 2007. When Derek Anderson made the Pro Bowl for the Browns. Obviously, you remember that season, Phil Dawson with the famous field goal down in Baltimore hit the stanchion and they had to clarify the rule book. And the
I do
Browns.
remember that. I remember standing there saying, "Which
So,
way are you going to go with this one?"
so they did get it right. By the way, they got the call right. Baltimore did not get jobbed on that one, but Joe was a lot of fun to watch. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is what a modern NFL offense looks like. There are passes being completed 20, 30, 40, 50 yards down the field. Oh my goodness gracious.
Well,
It was,
Joe's not afraid to throw it either, as you found
oh,
out in Houston, right?
yeah, I mean, he is the ultimate risk it, no biscuit guy. And he was victimized a couple of times with a couple of young wide receivers being in the wrong spots that led to interceptions and whatnot. But he was fun to watch. But here's the thing, too. He's polar opposite playing style than Deshaun. And I think what the Browns wanted to do this year by bringing in a guy like Jameis Winston is Jameis has those similar off-schedule abilities that Deshaun has, right? Getting out of the pocket, looking downfield, trying to make something happen. So I really felt like the reason they made the change from Flacco to Jameis had more to do with them bringing in Ken Dorsey, changing the style of offense that they plan to play. Because I'll be honest with you, Nestor, I think that Joe Flacco's skill set was he is the prototypical Kevin Stefanski quarterback. You know what I mean? Like if you sat Kevin Stefanski down in a moment of honesty and clarity and asked him to create his favorite type of quarterback, right? What he would prefer, I think Joe Flacco would be it as far as his physical build and how he plays the game and whatnot. But this year was about finding a backup that you don't have to retool your offense, because the first 2 years, Nestor, they had to retool offenses without Deshaun Watson. They did it with Jacoby Brissett in 2022. They certainly did it last year with Flacco and a couple of the other guys that they ended up having starting games. So this year it's about, okay, if we have an issue and Deshaun's not available, we don't have to throw half the playbook out. If he isn't available, Jameis can step in. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, one of their younger guys. Huntley, the kid that was down in Baltimore, he's up here now as one of the Browns quarterbacks. Tyler Huntley, I don't know where he fits in the picture, but they really made a concerted effort, I think, to build that quarterback room in a way similar to what the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson, in a way that kind of resembles the starter. So if something happens to Watson again, they can, again, they don't have to make radical adjustments.
The man of a million bobbleheads, all of the land of Cleve. He is Daryl Ruiter, right or wrong fan. That's Ruiter, wrong fan, out on the X. And you can find him at Odyssey out in Cleveland as well, doing all things Cleveland sports. And not as much Cavs. Certainly the Guardians have moved to the front of class here.
The Cavs finally have a new coach. Kenny Atkinson was hired on Monday, so thank goodness that is over with, and we're expecting Donovan Mitchell to sign a contract extension with the Cavaliers as well, despite the national media for 2 years since that trade with the Jazz trying to wish him out of Cleveland and talk him out of Cleveland. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. So fingers crossed, pen gets put to paper there.
Even the Lakers have a coach. Hey, look, man, we're in D.C. here. The team's still lucky to be in D.C. and not in Virginia, and still completely poorly run.
You know
So
what?
you never have to worry about the Washington Wizards getting in the way of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I'll say this, I give teams credit for hiring coaches that were not required to do podcasts with the superstar of the team as a prerequisite to get the job, like JJ Redick, because that is all that is on his resume when it comes to coaching basketball.
Well, let's see how it works out. He is Daryl Ruiter. We're going to see how it works out this week with the Guardians in town. Birds in town for a week. Rangers in this weekend. Luke is at the ballpark. He is Baltimore Luke. I'm Nestor. You can find me out on the interwebs or at Pappas on Tuesday, the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. Little respite for the 4th of July. Back after it on July 12th. We will be at Fadley's at Lexington Market before the Yankees and the Orioles come in. This is fun, Daryl. Yankees, Orioles, Cleveland, all of the usual suspects from the 90s back into this thing. A fun summer ahead of baseball. Daryl, good talking to you when it's hot outside. I will check back in come playoff time and when the Browns and the Ravens get together in the fall.
Looking forward to it.
You got it. The man of a million bob. I love all the bobbleheads. I think if I had that many bobbleheads, I'd have a lot of dusting I'd have to do in there. My Pacifica belt buckles don't have that problem. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore positive.